I'm Mindy with SnapNHD, Natural Hazard Disclosures. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm really excited to share these updated maps with you, and I'm very proud to represent SnapNHD since we are endorsed and approved by CAR. That's why we are the second drop-down box on the CAR zip forms, and we are here to keep you safe and protected. We have $10 million of E&O that protects everybody in the transaction: buyer, seller, listing agent, buyer's agent, TC if you use one, and your escrow officers. And today, I'm really happy to have Larry Church, the Director of Compliance for SnapNHD, to join us. He is a wealth of information. He has been in this industry for 20 plus years, and before that, he was in the military, so he's done a lot of different things relating to the natural hazards. And he's going to share with us today a variety of different screens with the updated maps before and after CAL FIRE redid them in our beautiful state of California. So thank you, Larry, for joining us today. We're ready to hear all the updates. Everybody's so excited to know what to do when you're in a high fire zone and how it's expanded in different areas. So it's all yours.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. This is going to be a semi-interesting, hopefully interesting presentation. What we're going to end up covering is the new fire maps, kind of some hot areas that I've been able to view on those, specifically Ranchos Palos Verdes area, and then some other parts of LA. LA County. Along with that, I'm going to share a little bit about the FHDS form, if that's all right. There's some confusion out there as to inspections and what's required and what's not. So hopefully I can kind of come against a little bit of that misinformation that's out there. And then if you haven't heard about it, I'll talk about the WFDR, the Wildfire Disclosure Report as well, just really quickly. It's all things encompassing fire that can help you out in your transactions. Questions wise, we have the chat up. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot any questions in there. Other than that, let's get started. Anything offhand before we start? No?
Just
Okay.
that we can make this interactive so you don't have to necessarily wait till the very end of the presentation. If you have questions as we go, Larry's really knowledgeable, I'm knowledgeable, and we can always pick it up from where we left off. So feel free to interact with us as if we're with you in person.
So like I said before, the topics we're going to cover is the new CAL FIRE maps, the defensible space inspection, and then the wildfire disclosure report. So the CAL FIRE maps, a little bit of information about these is the first update for the local responsibility area map since 2007, 2008. The local responsibility area maps are comprised of incorporated cities. So when you're looking at the statutory page, you'll see either local responsibility or state responsibility maps. So just know that when we talk about the local responsibility maps, we're talking about incorporated cities. And the state responsibility maps, we are talking about unincorporated cities, census designated cities, or the rural communities. And when we're discussing these are the CAL FIRE maps. Now, just know that some cities have their own mapping that are local mapping. So that's where a lot of confusion comes in at when you're talking about local mapping. But we're talking about CAL FIRE's local responsibility maps, not Rancho Palos Verdes local city maps, or LA County or LA City local city maps, anything like that. These are just the CAL FIRE maps. And with these new update, the cities are responsible for updating the LRA maps within 120 days of the release. So they're released in March. The cities and counties are supposed to update that information within 120 days. It's more of a legality reasons versus any other notion. The maps are live, they're active, they are able to be used on any transactions, anything like that. the point for the 120 days adoption is that, or why the cities have to adopt these, is for legality reasons. So if there is a say a fire does come through, there's a house that is in a fire zone in the new maps, but not in the old. If the city doesn't adopt those maps and release it to the public, then the homeowners can technically sue the cities for not disclosing that they have adopted the maps and that they are active. Case in point, I live in Southern California, and my city has already adopted the maps, and they emailed everybody out everybody in the city information about those adopting the maps, and they've actually added that information to their website as well. So all cities should be doing this for legality reasons to make sure that everybody is aware of the updates. Any questions about any of that? Okay. So this is I just want to do a really broad look at LA County so you can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at. So this is LA County. And you can see over here in Torrance area, kind of the Manhattan Beach, there's not a lot of fire zones over there at all in this area. You'll see how Rancho Palos Verdes is completely covered on the old map in fire. Also along the hills of Hollywood and Beverly Hills, you can see it where it comes down. And then I'm pointing out Chino as well. You kind of see there's a large area here that's not there. And then when I go to the next slide, you'll see a big difference. So, and I'll up close some of these as well, but you see Rancho Palos Verdes has completely changed. They've taken away the couple of fire zones that are in the Manhattan Beach area, and then everything else is extended out even more. So it's not just a extend out, it's also take away as well, which you can see here in the Rancho Palos Verdes area. Going into the Beverly Hills, I know this isn't the Rancho Palos Verdes area. I just like to kind of show the differences of what you see. So this is before in Beverly Hills, and then the after is a pretty big difference. You can see where it has come down. It had stopped here at this at Sunset Boulevard. Now it's gone down into this area as well, and it's like that across the whole mountain range. When we look at Palos Verdes before, and by the way, I purposely try to stay kind of far back so you can not really see the streets or name the streets. I mean, you're gonna know the area, but this is more of a reference. This is more of a reference for yourself. So you can see there's Rancho Palos Verdes. The whole peninsula was in a fire zone before, so that was kind of disconcerting. But when you go to the new fire map, you'll see that they've taken out that whole middle section, and then the orange area you see here is the moderate, the yellow is the high, and then obviously the red is the very high. So you can see where they took out a large portion of the Rancho Palos Verdes area and increased these areas here as high and moderate. So the big change for your area. All right. We have a question. Who reports the information to the city for the updates on the maps? CAL FIRE has released it. It's up to the city, and they notify all the cities of the updated maps. Then it's up to the cities to adopt those maps. Does that answer your question, Joan? Hopefully. So CAL FIRE is the one that notifies the cities. Got another question. In the new map, there's a lot of moderate zones. Will those zones stay moderate or turn into high severity zones after the cities adopt? So the cities can expand areas. They cannot retract areas. So it's not, most likely they will stay moderate. They won't expand it out, but I've seen the map of like San Diego where they've done their own mapping, and you can see where they've expanded out of the CAL FIRE map and expanded out from that. So that is something that the cities do have an option to do, but they don't always do it. I was actually talking to in San Diego and Vista. I was talking to one of the fire captains the other day, and he said that the only part he needed added was a creek area. So there's no homes, there's nothing around that area, just a creek area that doesn't get a lot of cleaning out. So they're going to probably look at areas like that, but until then, we won't know until they all adopt and report back to CAL FIRE. Next question was, when's the last time CAL FIRE updated the maps? These maps, the LRA maps, were adopted and over last updated in 2007, 2008. So it's been roughly, was it 18 years, 17, 18 years since the last update for the local responsibility, the LRA maps. The SRA maps were just updated last year, 2024. They took a year and a half to update, whereas these local responsibility maps only took a couple months. Different adoption process for both sides. But thank you for your question, John. I appreciate it. And then, like I was saying, Chino Hills before, there's a big difference you can see. Just kind of let you know the differences where they can retract and put in furthermore. So here's the old map here. And then when I go back to the new map, you'll see that they added this entire area over here and they took off some of this area around Yorba Linda. So there are retractions, there are additions throughout the whole state. Any questions on the updated maps? None?
What happens, Larry, when the city decides to not update the maps and adopt them?
I have gone through all all 483 incorporated cities and 58 counties. There are some cities that have not adopted the old maps. So I think that still falls in that legality where if they don't adopt it, fire comes through and they don't adopt it and make it public to their residents, then there is some type of legality that come back at them where they can be sued.
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions about CAL FIRE maps? Okay. So just really quick, I want to run through a lot of things about the decision tree that goes on in the FHDS. Just know that the decision tree is to be used as a guide. It's not required in a transaction. It's not an actual form. But a lot of people have a problem with decision tree, so make sure you call your natural hazard disclosure company, whoever you use. Hopefully it's Mindy here at Snap, but make sure you call to get some more information about how to fully figure it out and how to fill it out. Call from FHDS is to be filled out by seller with the guidance from the agent. So a lot of questions. I talk to homeowners, buyers, sellers, agents all day long about fire. And one of the questions I always get is, one of the comments I always hear is they say, well, I'm going to fill this out for my client. And that's where CAR has said, no, just make sure that the seller is filling out with the guidance from the agent. So you're supposed to know how to fill it out, but you're supposed to just give the seller the guidance to fill it out. Only CAL FIRE adopted approved state maps dictate the FHDS is required in a transaction, of which there are two, the LRA and CRA, the very fire hazards, very zones. So if there is, say, Rancho Palos Verdes has its own city map, the FHDS is not required if that map says you're in a very high. It's only the CAL FIRE maps that you see on the statutory page on the NHD, not any local fire maps. Can you see the confusion there when I say local? Is it local responsibility? Is it local maps? That's where a lot of confusion comes in at. So just really quick on the FHDS Section 3, just know, is there a local ordinance mandating it? Has the defensible space inspection been completed? Is the parcel in compliance? 9 3/4 times out of 10 for number 3, letter A, you're going to let me go back real fast. You're going to select is because a lot, like I said, I've looked at every incorporated city in all counties, and almost all of them have some type of local ordinance. Especially in Southern California, I didn't find any that had no local ordinance. Yeah, so see, when will PV area adopt the fire maps? I have not heard yet, Rico. They have 120 days, and last I heard, the Rancho Palos Verdes was pretty on top of the fire adoption. So I would assume it'd be within 120 days with that. And
Do they get penalized at all, Larry, if they don't adopt the maps?
I have not heard of any type of penalization. So I think they just run the risk of litigation if if they don't adopt it, is what it boils down to.
Okay.
Where can we access the maps? So if that's a tricky question. I have a link that CAL FIRE provides that you can look up addresses. You can kind of see before and after on it. But that falls into the, if you know, you have to disclose. So I always say, if you want to know if a property is in a fire zone or not, reach out to Mindy. Mindy can look it up, or reach out to me, and we can get that answer for you pretty quickly. Or we have on our site, we have the hazard check. You can put in the address and it tells you if it's in a fire zone or not. We have a couple ways of getting you that information without you having to look at the whole territory and the whole area and seeing everything. So
Can I add to that for just a moment?
sure.
You, as an agent, unless you're an expert map reader and you know how to determine if a property is in or out of any of the hazardous zones, flood, fire, earthquake, please do not go to CAL FIRE and look up maps and determine on your own. It's much safer and reduces the liability off of you if you go to the SnapNHD website, and just like you're going to place an order, you put in the exact property address with the zip code and hit start order. And what will come up are the 6 items on the statutory form from CAR. So for free, you can see immediately what hazardous zones are affecting the property. And this reduces liability from you because it's coming from us. So that's the safest way to go. You don't want to start looking at maps and analyzing and determining this street or that street is or is not in the zone, or that.
That's my job. That's my job.
Exactly. That's what we do. And that's why we are here to support you and keep you safe, which is why 31 years ago, CAR decided that there would be third-party providers like SnapNHD to give you this information. Because for those of you who've been selling property for a long time, remember when you had to look it up and you had to disclose, and then if you were wrong, you got sued. So why not put the liability 100% on us and let us do the work for you? So anyone that wants to see how to get to the hazards preview, I have a really cool video I can send you, but it's really easy to go online and just look it up yourself. You can even give it to your clients. So if somebody wants to go look at an open house over the weekend and they say, you know, John, I don't want to be in a fire zone, even the buyer can look up on our website for free. So take advantage of that and help yourself. Do not create extra liability if you can prevent it.
So John had a great question. Do insurance companies use their own maps? And the answer to that is yes. They have maps. They're called risk assessment maps, or risk mitigation maps, that they compile different maps and different data together to look and see if what the risk is to insuring a property. They do not take the CAL FIRE maps into consideration at all. They have their own map. It's actually
It's
illegal for them
Larry.
to do that.
Larry, it's not. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Hey, it's Robert Feldman with Wows, CEO Wows. It's not an actual map, believe it or not. So insurance companies don't. We're a wholesaler. We bring insurance carriers in.
Right.
It's not an actual map. So CAL FIRE uses maps and does broad strokes. Insurance companies use, in essence, fire scoring systems based on about 150 different algorithms for each property. So it's a little different. So it's what I would say to everybody is, you're going to see it be somewhat close. You're not going to see your map say it's in a low fire zone, and then all the insurance companies come back and say no, it's extreme. Usually, if it's extreme on your map, it's going to be pretty close to extreme with us on the insurance side. But it just as an FYI, they do not follow this at all. It's just different mark.
Thank you, Robert. And for those of you who don't know Robert Feldman, I've known him for over 15 years, and he's a phenomenal broker. I have actually, if you want to put your contact information, Robert, in the chat, please do so, because he's a wealth of information under the insurance as well. And he's done many classes with me and his partner, Joel. So thank you.
We're the only ones we brought in as a wholesaler multiple programs. So it's neat for everybody on here. We can help with a lot of the homes across California, and especially in the peninsula.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So section C of the FHDS, this is the fun one. I'm going to run through them really quickly, just kind of let you know that of the 485 incorporated cities and 58 counties, the inspection is required for only 2 cities and 1 county in order to close escrow. The rest of the state, there are local ordinances, but they simply state that you have to maintain defensible space, that you don't have to have an inspection for close of escrow. So that is a huge misconception out there. People just think that it's required on every transaction, and it's not. So I'm going to run through these really quickly. Number 1 on the letter C is no local ordinance. We know that's not true. Actually, if you look in our report, if you order from us on page, it's usually page 13, 14, 15 on the AB 38 fire hardening defensive space page, we actually have on there all the local ordinances for the incorporated cities and counties for that specific property. And also we tell you if an inspection is required for close of escrow or not. So we already have that information in our report as well, instead of you having to call and ask and figure out what's going on. 1 is left alone, that's defaulted. 2 is there's a local ordinance requires compliance as a result of the seller property, but they make it the buyer's responsibility. That law does not exist in any incorporated cities or state or counties in the state. There's no law that says you have to have the inspection for the sale of the property, and it gives the option of the buyer or seller. So that would never be filled out at this point in time. The first place that your sellers are going to look is going to be at number 3, which is there is a local ordinance, but does not require compliance as a result of the sale of the property, and it allows the buyer to have the option of doing the inspection within 1 year close of escrow. Maybe Robert if Robert's still around, maybe he can speak with this for a second. I know that there is no government entity going around making sure that you have the inspections. It more falls on to the insurance companies wanting to know if you are in compliance or not. And then
That's correct.
Also,
that is correct, Larry. So what happens, the insurance companies are doing inspections at we're changing it kind of to be prior to binding, but usually for your escrows, it'll be after binding. So they'll do inspections after the fact once they bind. It's kind of an important note. Insurance companies have up to 45 days to cancel a policy even after binding. So it's kind of good to know that information so that if they could have what's classified as condition concerns, even though they accept the risk based on a given area, based on the scoring systems, but if there were considered fire hazard issues or other liability concerns, they can cancel within 45 days. It's generally recommended we do fire hardening reports in advance so that we can supply it to the insurance companies that we wholesale for, excuse me. So it's a better way of doing it. You'll see a change really from the listing agent side. I've been speaking as a speaker for CAR in different associations where I'm being brought in to talk about the changes in the insurance industry. That's not what today is. You guys got to really get Larry. I want to make sure Larry continues on this, but yes, the inspections are really important to make sure you know. And with regard to the insurance companies, they are required and they do them. We had a question from CAR, actually, of all places. One of the CAR attorneys called me asking if it's in the language of the insurance to do inspections, and the answer is yes, it is. And I was able to point it out basically. So they will do their inspections.
Cool. Thank you, Robert.
Next option is option 4, local ordinance mandates compliance upon the sale of property and the seller's responsibility in escrow. That exists in the cities of Truckee, Paradise, and the county of El Dorado. So in those 2 cities and in that county, any point of sale or any escrow, this is a point of sale inspection. And the seller has to do it. It's actually in their municipal codes that the seller has to have the inspection done and bring the property into compliance in those 3 areas. So nowhere else in the state is it required by civil code or by law. Option 5 is if you've already had an inspection within 6 months going to escrow, you'll just supply that information to the buyer showing compliance. And then the last option is the seller will voluntarily have the property inspected and brought into compliance while in escrow. So that's option 6. So the seller has really boils down to two options. Number three, buyer, do it sometime after escrow, or number six, seller will do it during escrow and bring the property in compliance. So those are the really the two options that apply to pretty much the whole state.
Yeah.
Any questions about the FHDS? Okay. And then lastly, I just want to talk about the wildfire disclosure report. Maybe you guys have heard of this. It's a $140 report. It's that you can get that will help kind of let you know what's going on with the property. If it is, it has a lot of wildfire data and analytics. There's satellite imagery. It has a vulnerability assessment. I've had fire personnel who didn't know about this and heard about it and said $140 is way worth getting this report. So just kind of go over some of the things that you'll see in it really quick. So it's got a hazard rating, kind of tells you where you're at in the different maps. So this is CAL FIRE's, USDA's, and the California Public Utility Commission's fire maps. So there's not just CAL FIRE maps that's out there. There's all these different fire maps. So according to this property that's in Rancho Palos Verdes, it is in a, they're still using the old maps. So you'll see that it's in the different low, elevated, very high area. Along with that, you have the regulatory compliance, kind of tells you where you're at with AB 38 and IBHS standards, what needs to be done, what needs to be removed. It has it all checked off, kind of gives you an idea as to how to bring the property into compliance or what is already in compliance with that property.
And they go through zone 0, 1, and 2 to identify that information.
And then vulnerability analysis lets you know, shows you the house, shows you the structure itself, shows you where all the trees are, how hot they're burned, the convection heat, it's the convection heat, radiating heat, also ember entry, so where the embers can come in at. If you remember the fires back in Malibu a couple of years ago, those fires, those houses burned down because of the embers that got into the attic and caught the homes on fire. It wasn't from the actual fire coming up to the house itself. So that's ember flow is a really big deal because these embers can travel up to a couple miles away from the actual fire. So it goes over the vulnerability itself, and I believe that is really it. Any questions at all? I try to cover a lot in
that was
30
an
minutes.
intense amount of information in a short period of time. Good job. Tiffany, I know we've been talking about this particular situation. Tiffany's asking, what would we recommend? The listing in San Pedro says that the property is in a high fire zone, but when they asked to have the defensible space inspection, CAL FIRE says the property is outside of their jurisdiction. So do they need to go directly to the LA Fire Department? Then you contact LA and LA says they're not in a fire zone.
Because we're in that 120-day transition of they're not adopting, they're still going off the old fire maps.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at the property and see where it's at. You can reach out to the local city fire department if you haven't already. There's also companies, if you just really want to get an inspection done, you can actually search certified defensible space inspections, and you'd have to pay obviously, but because CAL FIRE is free and cities usually have a cost, but you can have a third party come out and do the inspection itself. You don't need the fire department to say yay or nay. You can actually find a company that will actually do the inspection for you.
Robert, don't you work with somebody who does that as well? Robert Feldman?
Yes, we do. We actually have two different companies.
That's what I
But ours is a little different. Ours is actually based on insurance. It's not based on CAL FIRE, which is a little unique. Ours is a little bit more extreme, is what I would argue, because of being required for the CAL FIRE. So, CAL FIRE is not as extreme as what we do and what we require for the new insurance.
Okay. Robert did put his information in the chat. So did I. If you'd like Larry's direct information, you can always email him, CC me, or go through me to get to Larry. you know, anytime there's issues and questions, he's my go-to guy. So as you can tell, he's got a lot of information, really knowledgeable, and stays on top of everything to keep everybody as safe and protected as possible. Are there any questions? I know it was fast. It is being recorded. If you would like to go back and rewatch it or share it with anybody that you know, feel free to do that as well. I appreciate everybody joining us today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rick and PV Board. I've been a proud member for 20 years, and I love to provide training and support to keep you guys safe. So, any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much. If you think of something, let us know, and we'll be happy to help any way we can. Have a good day, everybody.